A 7¼ gauge Sweet William steam locomotive Part 44, I sourced an unfinished saddle tank from Simon Hudson at the steam workshop. It is 2 inches shorter than shown on the drawing, but I think it will look good on this engine. Here it is, sat in the back of my car, just as I picked it up from Simon. As you can see, it comprises the tank and the inner bit, and the good thing about this is it's modular. The semicircular inner part screws into the tank using quite a lot of 4BA countersunk bolts. All I need to do is make a gasket for it. This clip shows the tank with the centre part loosely in position. Obviously it needs to lift up a little bit when it's bolted together. The nice thing about this tank is that it has bushes for a handrail at each side and also bushes for the nameplate. The only minor problem is, and I think I can get around this, is the fact that the tank is 18½ inches square. And by square, I don't mean the round part, I'm referring to the base. According to the drawing that Matt from Blackgate's Engineering sent to me, this tank is 2 inches shorter than a normal Sweet William tank. I don't think this is a big problem, and in some ways it will look better because I never did like the way that saddle tanks mount to the smoke box. Besides, this engine is also fitted with a support for the original side tanks to mount the saddle tank at the front underneath. Time to try the tank in position. The first thing to do is to protect the paint. So here I put some cloths along the top of the boiler. Then I sat a long piece of mahogany on top of the boiler, which took the tank to its approximate position. If anything, it's fractionally high at the moment. Before making a judgment on this saddle tank, I think it's time to look at the tank arrangement on the original engine. This was horrific. And in my humble opinion, it really made the entire engine look stupid. Originally, this engine, which also has a mechanical lubricator, has a pair of displacement lubricators, as per the drawing, fitted to the smoke box. I am going to refit these because they look good. At the front of each of the side tanks was an oil tank, and the purpose of this was to feed oil to the axle boxes, which I thought was a bit of unnecessary overkill to compensate for the way the engine looked. When the engine is finally fitted with this saddle tank after it's been modified and painted, it will be very simple to use an oil can to lubricate the axle boxes. The front part of the saddle tank would normally have either one bracket in the middle, as this is designed for, or two at either side to mount it to the smoke box. But this engine has a special fitting, and here it is in close-up, that supported the original tanks. This bracket is 18½ inches long, and for this saddle tank that is not good because it doesn't take into consideration the radius at the bottom part of the saddle tank. I will either make an entirely new bracket which is a different shape or modify this one. To make the tank easy to remove without disturbing it, I think that modifying the existing bracket is the best way forward. Before I do any further work on this saddle tank, I need to discuss these plans with the owner of the engine to see what he thinks. Owing to the position of the check valves, I need to make the tank easily removable in case the check valves need to be removed also. In the next episode, I'm going to modify these check valves very simply by turning down the nut on the top, which is a bit on the big side. And once I've done this, it will allow me to drop the position of the saddle tank slightly. At this moment in time, I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do with the front part of the saddle tank, but I do have some sketchy ideas at the moment. In a previous episode, I drilled a hole in the footplate to accept the steam pipe to feed the injector, but I didn't drill the hole big enough to allow the pipe to be 1/4 inch in diameter, which is the pipe size that the number 6 injector uses. I will, however, have to make an adapter from the steam tap to go to the 1/4 inch pipe, because the steam tap is designed for 3/16 inch diameter pipe. There's only one way to do this, and that's to use my DeWalt drill with a 1/2 inch drill bit in it, holding the drill firmly and bracing myself in case it grabs. As I mentioned in a previous episode, using this very drill I once twisted my back when the drill grabbed and twisted the drill itself. No problems here though. I enlarged the hole to 1/2 inch in diameter. Here I'm sweeping away all the chippings. And then from both sides I'm using a deburring tool. I do not want any sharp edges. I'm going to fit this hole with a grommet as I've shown previously. And this size of hole will actually make it easier to fit the existing grommet. As you can see, there's a bit of play, which is a good thing. I thought it would be a good idea to check that the union nut goes through the hole, and it does, but only just. I want to apply some etching primer to the footplate on both sides, and for that reason I'm removing the exhaust pipe from the steam valve that operates the cylinder drains. I'm going to paint the footplate using this 1K etch primer from HMG Paints. It's very good stuff. And I'm going to use a combination of methods just to show you what is possible. The first thing to do is to get rid of any metal chippings or any rubbish from the footplate, first of all with a paintbrush, then followed by blasting the area with compressed air. So now this is quite a clean area to paint. To start with, I'm showing something that you really shouldn't do. I'm spraying the footplate whilst it's in situ without using any masking tape on the other parts. I just painted a small part of the footplate using this method. Most of the painting on the footplates was done by using etch primer sprayed into an aerosol can cap. And remember, when you do this, you don't have to press the nozzle all the way down. That way you don't generate too much force when the paint is sprayed into the cap. This is the finish I got with one coat of etching primer using a paintbrush. Spraying is definitely a better method, but I daren't spray this part of the footplate because it's too close to other parts of the engine. And masking up the entire area would take quite a lot of time. I'm trying to keep the bill reasonable for the customer. I would like to mention that working on miniature steam locomotives does take a great deal of time. And whilst on the subject of time, it's top tip time. This is a good one. When you're painting something that needs masking, why use masking tape? Why not use a piece of paper or a piece of card, or in my case, the back of a piece of sandpaper? In 1999, I did a ground-up rebuild and modification of a Series 2A Land Rover. It was a soft-top Land Rover, and I painted the entire thing out in the garden, and all I used was a large cardboard box to protect the other parts from subsequent coats of paint. Here I'm applying the first coat of etching primer to the other side using a paintbrush. Then once again, using the piece of wet-to-dry sandpaper, I applied more paint using the rattle can. It really does work. As you can see, most of the other parts of the engine are not covered in paint. The brake column and the base of the reverser have some extra paint on them, but they're going to be black anyway. Here's a special treat, the etching primer drying on the footplate of a large Sweet William type steam locomotive in 7 1/4 inch gauge. That's it for me. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.